Alright, I'm sure this will ruffle a few feathers, but today we are going to be ranking championship fan bases based on their size and based on their attendances from this season so far. Obviously, it is very early days in this season, and if you would like to see me do this video at the end of the season as well to see how much the attendance figures have actually gone ahead and swayed, make sure to leave a like on today's video. 300 likes would be massively appreciated. But today we are going to be going through every championship club's average home attendance from this season so far and ranking them from the smallest to biggest fan base. Slight disclaimer, as of recording, Coventry are yet to play a game at home so far this season, so for Coventry we're going to be using their average attendance from last season. And if you'd like to see me do this with away fans, so who are the fan bases who travel best on the road, do leave a like and show your support on today's video. But without any further ado, let's jump into this one. So coming in at the bottom of the table with the smallest fan base based on attendances this season, we do have Luton Town. Although a couple of disclaimers probably have to be thrown in there by the fact that Luton are working with the smallest ground in the championship and they get incredibly close to selling that out week on week. They're capped at a maximum attendance of just over 10,000 fans, and so far this season they've averaged 9,831. All of the figures we'll be using today are off Transfermarkt. And another set of fans who are capped out at that 12,000 point are Rotherham United. They are coming in next with an average attendance so far this season of 9,859. Once again, one of the smaller fan bases in the championship, but they do sell out the vast majority of their stadium. What would you prefer? A gigantic stadium with a bigger fan base, but you do have that emptiness in it, or a smaller ground which you go ahead and fill out most weeks? Let me know down below. In 22nd place we then have Blackpool coming in with an average attendance of 10,831. Obviously we have seen Blackpool's attendances pick up over the last few years after the Oyston regime came to an end and everything like that. I think record highs for Blackpool last season. They're capped out at 16,200 and so far this season are coming in at just under that 11,000 mark. I'm sure Wigan Athletic have got plenty more fans back on board with how they've been performing over the past couple of seasons. At the DW so far this season, they've had an average attendance of 12,626 fans. Wigan do get a little bit of banter at times, you know, with the emptiness sometimes in the DW, and it's interesting how they've sort of restructured that stadium in terms of where the fans actually are now. That end behind the goal always seems to be a little bit empty, but in order to go ahead and build the atmosphere up with those two ends at the side of the pitch and next to the away fans. In 20th place we then have Reading coming in with an average attendance of just over 13,000 fans so far this season. Obviously the Select Car Leasing Stadium, and what it's now called, gets mixed reviews, I think it's fair to say, from away fans, but Reading at the moment coming in with just over 13k. Next up, and in 19th place based on average attendances so far this season, we have Queen's Park Rangers coming in with the smallest crowd so far this season from the London clubs. Be interesting to see if there's any swing on that come the end of the season, but they're coming in with an average attendance of just over 13,500 so far this season. And we're sticking in London next up for Millwall. They are at the Den with an average attendance of 14,611 fans so far this season. I am still yet to go ahead and visit the Den, but they do go ahead and make that ground an absolute fortress, don't they? And with, you know, around 14,000 Millwall fans backing them on every week, you can see why. In at 17th place we then have Blackburn Rovers fans. They're coming in with an average attendance of 14,643 fans. Blackburn are paying some of the most expensive prices actually in terms of match day tickets, season tickets, things like that. If you watched my season ticket ranking video at the start of the season, you'll have seen just how much money Blackburn fans are actually having to shell out, and I do think that sort of thing has a massive influence on attendances. And then coming in just above Blackburn Rovers, I'm enjoying this one, we have Preston North End coming in with an average attendance so far this season of 15,204 fans, which is seriously impressive stuff considering we were sort of bouncing around that 11,000 mark throughout the vast majority of last season. Our season ticket campaign has had quite the influence on increasing those, match day supporters getting in through the turnstiles week in, week out, lowering those match day prices, and I think generally just a lot of people at Preston being more on board with the team this season. So long may it continue. I think the atmosphere is a lot better for it so far this season at Deepdale as well, and yeah, I hope to see that continuing to rise. In 15th place we then have Swansea City, who are averaging 16,341 home fans. They have a capacity in their stadium of just over 21,000, so the vast majority of this going ahead and getting filled up with that 16k in there week in, week out. Next then we have Birmingham City fans coming in with an average attendance of 16,630 fans. Now there are a couple of things to bring up with this one, as it is maybe a little bit misleading because of the cap in terms of capacity that they actually have on their stadium at this point in time. Birmingham, obviously the whole stadium isn't still fully operational at this point in time, and that will have the influence on capacity as they are capped out at a certain amount. If we go back to the 18-19 season, for example, they were averaging well over 20,000 fans that season. Coming in 13th place, we have a fan base who has seen a real boost in attendances this season, and since the takeover really, we have Hull City fans coming in with an average attendance of 16,848 fans, which is a massive rise from what they were working with previously under the previous regime, and it just shows what you can get out of a fan base when they are back connected with the club, and your club is going ahead and showing that ambition that Hull City are on the pitch this season. Watford fans at Vicarage Road are next up, and they get pretty close to going ahead and selling out week in, week out. At least that's been the case so far this season. Watford's whole capacity stadium is capped at just over 21,500, and they've been averaging 19,381 fans so far this season. Still a ground Vicarage Road which I'm yet to go ahead and visit. I do hope I get there this season. We're in the top half now in 11th place, and as the 11th biggest fan base in the Championship we have Huddersfield Town, who so far this season have had an average attendance there of 19,412 fans. Huddersfield, a ground which I've been to plenty of times so far, and when things are going well on the pitch, they do get the atmosphere rocking there. We're into the top 10 now. Coming in 10th place, we have got Cardiff City coming in with the 10th biggest fan base in the Championship based on their attendances from this season so far. We do have quite a few clubs who there's really not all too much between. Quite a few of them are around this 19k mark, and Cardiff just about edging off Huddersfield and Watford when it comes to their average attendances so far this season. 19,431 for Cardiff. And based on attendances from this season, the biggest club in Lancashire as things stand, we've got Burnley in the Championship this season after that relegation from League One. Once again, another club who is getting really close to going on and selling out week in, week out. 21,994 is what Turf Moor is capped at, and so far this season they brought in crowds of 19,486. After that we then have Coventry City. Obviously for Coventry's sake I'm having to use their average attendances from last season, but pretty big all things considered. 19,504 fans on average for Coventry last season. I think they ran a scheme where they had some discounted tickets, which I think got a lot of people on board. The fact that they were back at the Rico as well, and that it had been a season out from fans not being able to go to games and things like that, that brought a lot of people in for Coventry last season, and actually visiting the ground last season they got the atmosphere absolutely booming in there as well, and I'm looking forward to visiting in midweek next time. As the 7th biggest fan base in the Championship, we then have Stoke City coming in with an average attendance of just under that 21,000 mark. We are getting into the big boys here above that 20,000 mark. 20,979 fans for Stoke so far this season. Obviously, we recently had the news of Michael O'Neill going ahead and losing his job, and Stoke fans have had to endure some miserable football throughout the last few years, to be fair. So hopefully for their sake this could turn out to be a turning point, because they're certainly backing the team in terms of the numbers they turn up with. In at 6th place we then have the Bristol City fan base coming in at Ashton Gate with an average attendance of 21,174. A lot of work has been done, a lot of reservations and remodelling has been done at Ashton Gate, and I think really to the Bristol City fan base's benefit, they go ahead and generate a real atmosphere in there, particularly on Derby Day. It certainly looked like that in their game against Cardiff, and with an average attendance of 21,174, it's seriously impressive stuff for Championship football. Into the top 5 we go. Coming in 5th place, we have the West Brom fans, coming in with an average attendance of 22,184. I do enjoy an away trip to the Hawthorns, and considering that they go on and sell the vast majority of their home tickets, it's always a lot nicer to go ahead and look at when you do have, a big ground like the Hawthorns and you go ahead and pack it out with all the home fans in there. It does go on and build up the atmosphere. Norwich have been really consistent for attendances over the past decade now, really. 25,726 fans they're getting into Carrow Road week in, week out. Obviously, these figures do take into consideration away fans and things like that as well, but considering the prices that Norwich fans have been paying for football over the last few years as well, some of the most expensive season tickets in the Championship, really impressive stuff once again. The exact same could be said for Middlesbrough fans as well. Some of the most expensive tickets are sold at the Riverside in the Championship, but they're coming in this season with an average attendance of 26,312 fans. I'd argue that, certainly last season I thought that Middlesbrough fans were probably the best set of away fans to come to Deepdale. I think at home they're still trying to go ahead and really build up that atmosphere to get it to the point where they're as good, at home as they are on the road. But with crowds like that, it's really impressive stuff. They just need to start winning a few games. Claiming the number 2 spot, we then have Sheffield United fans coming in with an average attendance of just under that 28,000 mark so far this season. 27,928. Sheffield is an absolutely mad footballing city, and yeah, Bramall Lane's a great away day to go ahead and visit, particularly with the numbers they consistently get in there, and that stadium as well. They're capped at just over 32,000 fans in that stadium. But coming in with the biggest fan base in the Championship, of course it was always going to be Sunderland, coming in and pretty much blowing everyone else out of the water, if we're being honest, with an average attendance of 39,368 fans, just below that 40,000 mark, which is absolutely obscene for Championship football. I think that their home games especially, that's going to be a real selling point for Sunderland this season, a real strong point of theirs, because of, that crowd getting behind you. And at times we've probably seen that work in both ways, as we saw in their relegation season when things do get a little bit sour. I don't think that some players can cope with that pressure, particularly at this sort of level. But even in League One, they were regularly outselling Championship and some Premier League clubs with the numbers they turned up with. And yeah, that sort of gate receipt for a Championship club is absolutely crazy. But guys, there we have it. There is every Championship fan base ranked from smallest to biggest based on their average home attendances from this season. All of the figures we got for today's video were from Transfermarkt, and obviously they do include away fans in there as well, so do take this one with a little bit of a pinch of salt. If you'd like to see me doing a similar sort of video for away fans and how well your team travels on the road, do leave a like on totoday's video. But other than that, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.